Hello and welcome to my video about the intro of the new Star Wars game. And what I kind of felt just was a bit wrong about that kind of introduction tutorial to that start of the game with like a maybe the perspective of a designer or maybe the perspective of the consumer, the player. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of just go through parts of the game at the start that I found were just a little bit off. And the first thing I noticed was right at the start of the game in the cinematic. In the cinematic, it started fine, but when the music was introduced to kind of set the scene, all the environment sounds, as well as that music that the main character's actually hearing on headphones, like it felt like together, it felt really bad quality. It felt like I was just hearing noise, and maybe that kind of was there to set the scene, and I kind of get that in a way, but it's not necessary. Like, you don't need that to set the scene. And I felt like that sound in my ears through my headphones was just unpleasant, to be honest. The next part was the part where your alien friend is stood above and the way kind of breaks and you can't follow him up onto the platform and you need to find another way. What I didn't like about this is I couldn't look to the left of me at all, and I felt like the interaction that I had was limited by the forced directional camera that only wanted to point me towards the objective. And in a way, this is a good thing because this camera is a way to direct me through the kind of tutorial early stages of the game, and I really did think that was good. But I wasn't used to it, and it felt like something I had to get used to coming into this game because it's not something I experienced a lot. And honestly, I felt like it just limited my interaction and control over my character in the game, which was a bit displeasing. But I do see the reason for it, and in a way, I see it as a good thing, but it does have a con with it. The next part is when I'm standing, kind of a kind of like broken area where there's a ditch in front of me, and there's a rope to get across the other side. But what I didn't like, and why I didn't actually notice the rope. I didn't notice the rope at all. And like my graphics settings were, to be honest, a bit low, and maybe that is why the rope wasn't so noticeable to me. But I think that rope to get to the other side is something that should be noticeable, regardless of of the graphics settings I'm using. And the game kind of made it up to me because I tried another way to get over to the other side, and I actually fell off the edge and I respawned. And when I respawned, my character was in such a good position to see that rope in front of me in a clear manner, and that made it up to me. Though I felt like just making that rope clearer would have been positive. The next part of the video is about this part of the game where you're going through a train and you're being led by your alien friend whose name escapes me, and you end up going to a door, and when you turn around the area is completely different. You know what? There is something wrong with this, but apart from that, it's really, really, really amazing, and I absolutely love it. They did it so well. I haven't seen that technique being done that well in any game I've ever played. And I'll explain the technique. So basically, the way you were looking as a character, everything in front of you you can see, and that's textures that are rendered. But behind you, the textures can do anything they want. And in fact, most parts, they're not even there. So when you look at that door, so focused in a kind of tunnel area, that setting behind you completely changes. And then you turn around and you're like, what? Everything changed? And then you look back and everything has changed behind you too. And that was a clever technique and I really enjoyed that. But there was something wrong with it. And I want to point that out. And it wasn't anything wrong with the technique in specific, it was where that technique was placed. Because in this scene, you go through the area and it's exciting. You see the doors open and suddenly expand, and the lights start shining, and you get that sense of danger. And then you see this character, and this character is the exact problem with this scene. And the reason is, this character, maybe the game developers felt like they wanted you to meet this character. They wanted you to understand and see this character, and they wanted to introduce him to you. But the problem is, this character is shown for about 5 seconds. 5 seconds. It's literally meaningless to the player. And to be honest, it's like you're in a dream state in this part of the game, and your character might as well have just tripped and woken up, and it wouldn't have made a difference at all, except you just wouldn't have been introduced to the character. And the thing is, like, all those techniques in this area, they're completely wasted on the introduction to this character that is virtually 4 to 5 seconds, and it means absolutely nothing. I felt like what would have made these techniques that were so inspiring and great, what would have made them better was then to have a more meaningful scene, and that is what would have made this section of the game for me. This is the part I hate the most. I'm standing on the edge of a train section and I jump down and I learn how to jump attack the clone trooper below me. And that's great. But the problem with this area is that the area is really, really sloppy. I'm down here standing on the ground and I have no idea of where to go. But I already know the potential option. I already know that the ledge on the right hand side is a viable option for the way forward, but I don't choose it until the very last moment. In fact, I try absolutely everything else that I possibly can. I try going over the train from the left side, I try going under the train, I try using the force to try and do something special, or try to break down the door and go backwards, but I can't even do that. I try all these things that would have been exciting. But what I don't try is the thing that I knew that could happen. And the reason I don't try it is because it's a boring option. Like, to grab onto that rail and go down to the side of the train, I can tell is boring. So the problem is that there's not a lot of direction here to go on the right-hand side of the train and grab that rail. And honestly, it's a bit like a really bad joke. It's like when someone tells you a joke and not even the badness or the cheesiness of the joke makes it funny. It's just not funny, and like, you don't get the joke. You completely understand the joke, but you don't get it because you expect it to be funny, but it's just not at all. It's just not fun. And you're like, I don't get the joke, but you completely understand the joke. You know what it means, you understand what to do, like, but you don't find it fun, you don't find it funny. And that's kind of what, like, this area is to me, is that you could just grab onto that side of the onto that rail and go around the side of the train, but that's boring. And even in the video I showed, that's boring. Like, you don't actually do anything special, nothing exciting happens, you just go around the side of the train and go on top of it. There's nothing fun about it, but every other option I would have chose would have been a fun option. And now, if I came into that area, that scene, with that scenery, and I was this point between the two sections of the train, if I had the expectation that I didn't want to find this game enjoyable, I just wanted to get the job done and just go forward and complete this boring part of the game, immediately I think I would have grabbed that rail and gone around the side of the train. And that is the flaw for this section for me. There's one last part that I actually go back to, that is actually kind of an alright part, to be honest. It's where I come to a point with this kind of elevator kind of contraction machine, and above it is the alien dude that you're trying to catch up with, and he says that there's a lever below and you need to press it. But I don't see this lever, and I don't really understand what the lever is. It's not direct to me. But what I like is this makes me think. It makes me think about what way I need to go and where this lever could be. The only thing I would have felt about this part of the intro for the game is that maybe if it was to be made just a tiny bit easier, I'm not so sure, but the explanation from the character above could have just been a little bit more clear. But the fact that it isn't, actually I enjoyed, because I knew that the thing directly in front of me must be where the lever is, and that's because it's the only possible way forward, and it's obvious. It's a clear destination for where I need to go, and that is great. That I had to think about things, but it was easy to make a decision of which way I needed to go to find the lever. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye bye.